Hey Mo, so let me get started with the first question. So, what were your biggest pain points that you were hoping the early adopters hub will help you with?
So for me, as an outsider coming into the existing accounting community here in the UK, where various practice owners and individuals speak to each other on a regular basis and understand the different sort of dynamics within the firms themselves and what they feel in terms of software, etc., etc. Um, for me, I think just one of the key points was understanding the pain points they feel as accountants when it comes to software. Another would be to understand the approach that they take when introducing different software into their businesses and how they go about identifying the software. I think it was a really important one because obviously they each have a different process they take, and to understand it from various different accountants was really important for me. Um, and then the most important was getting honest feedback because it's so difficult to get honest feedback when you set up a software business. You end up speaking to friends and contacts, but people just hold back just because it's just human nature not to be too honest and to give feedback that might offend somebody, or something that they might not want to hear. So the approach we took through the program was really helpful.
All right, thank you very much. So, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but what was kind of your experience compared to the expectations that you had coming into this?
So I think overall, I think it exceeded my expectations, if I'm honest. In terms of what I expected when I came into this to this session, into this program, was that I would demo the product, and I'd get feedback from that demo, and we'd sort of go on from there. But I think, with your support, Johan, we went through a whole different set of questions and conversations, and just understanding what different accountants want uh, was just so important for me because I didn't expect that when I came in, to understand the marketing, understand what they expect, the pain points they feel, and just get a deep understanding of all those issues within the community. I think was really, really good and really helpful.
All right, perfect. So, what was the main focus of your program?
I'm just going to list a few bullet points here. For me, it was competitive analysis, um, the market gaps and identifying what those market gaps are. And then the most important was testing my assumptions, because obviously we all do it. You build something with a set of assumptions that people want X, Y, and Z. And then to be able to put that out there to potential clients and get honest feedback as to whether those are correct or not was so important.
All right, that's really good. And what would you say was the biggest value that you got out of this?
Um, I think understanding the market gap would be probably number one on my list, because there's so many market gaps, and software in the accounting industry and fintech overall, I think, is quite an early stage. I know we're probably 10 years in, but we're still quite at quite an early stage in what people are trying to do and what the different software vendors are trying to create to address some of the issues and trying to automate solutions and trying to make it more efficient and all those kind of things. So understanding where those gaps lie is so important from a client's point of view, from a user's point of view, was just really important. So that definitely would have to go number one for me. And then I think I just touched on it. Number one was competitive analysis. I think they go hand in hand. Is understanding, obviously, from day-to-day users of competitors' products, in what they feel are the challenges when they use those products, and what their experiences are like, and how they go about using those products. I think is really helpful. And then I think maybe again, I think I touched on it on the first one, is again the pain points that they feel, because I think that is so important. When you build a solution or a product, you need to understand the problem before you arrive at the solution, and to understand from a client's point of view what the problem is, and to get a deep understanding with a good explanation, and to be able to ask questions off the back of that as well is so important. And then from that we can go on and build the solution and build the right solutions, as opposed to building the wrong solutions and trying to continuously push that wrong solution, and people just feel frustrated because you're trying to push something that they're not necessarily interested in.
All right. And did you feel like any of, the main or the core assumptions you had around your business and where it's going to go, do you feel like they were challenged during this process?
Extremely. If I'm honest, extremely. I mean, that's credit to you, Johan. It was extremely challenged, and I think I use this analogy a lot. In if you start off at a position and you choose the road that you go down, and when each time we started those sessions, you started it with setting some expectation for myself and with the accountants as to where we want this conversation to go, where we want the workshop to go. And from that, I think they understood exactly what they can do and what they should do. And when you say that to people, when you tell them that it's honest feedback that we really need, so please don't hold back. As a founder, I think sometimes it's difficult because the accountants might feel like they might not necessarily buy into it, and they might feel they might still hold back. But when it comes from someone like yourself, Johan, who they know, and then I'm on the call as well as a founder, I think they genuinely believe it. So all gloves are off, and then they just go for it. So yeah, I think that's been really helpful.
Well, it sounds like your assumptions were definitely challenged, which leads well to the next question of how painful was it, the whole process for you as a founder?
I think I mean, obviously I just touched on it in terms of the pain points that you feel as a founder when people you're standing there and people are just basically throwing things at you, and you just have to say, just keep coming, right? And that can be in itself, that can be very, very painful, but it's required. It's important that you get it, because when you're trying to build something, it's important that you continuously build the right thing and not just go down the wrong path, because you end up spending loads of money, resources, etc. But I think even greater than that was watching the videos back, because I think I'm very self-critical, and I think most people are. When you watch back those videos and you listen to yourself, you think, why did I say this? Why didn't I say that? Or why did I sort of lead them down this path when I could have led them down a different path? And so watching that back each time was really helpful, though, because you watch it after one session and then you think, okay, I should have done this better, I should have done that better. And then you try and introduce it and trying to improve it for the next session. So then you set your questions out to be better and ensure that you put your points across clearer, or whatever you feel are the issues that you identified from the last session.
All right. Oh, that's really good. So how did you feel the structure and the process compared to if you were to reach out to those, to those accountants, or just to accountants in general yourself?
I think the challenge with reaching out to accountants yourself is you basically you have to pitch when you reach out to someone. It's so difficult to just say, I'm reaching out to you to get feedback, or just to say hello or whatever, because it's kind of perceived as strange, I guess. So to be able to have someone like yourself bring these accountants into the process and set their expectations right from the beginning is really helpful, because then and set as a founder, my expectations from the beginning is really helpful, because I can go in and just ask a set of questions or go down a certain path without having to pitch the product to them, or without having to sell and be in pitch mode or sales mode. So I think that's really important, because when you're in sales mode, you're trying to pitch, and then even if they do give you feedback, sometimes you feel like you need to defend any criticism that you've received. So that conversation is, in my opinion, completely different to the conversations that I've had over the last month or so.
Right. And did you feel like the process kind of accelerate your market research?
In terms of market research, I think it has. I think it has, because if I was, I mean, I touched on it earlier. If I was going down the path to push the product out and then sell the product, naturally I'd be quite revenue focused. And then when people give feedback, you try and build the product for the right things, or build the right features to ensure that the market is reacting well. But in order to identify good people, the accountants that are going to give you the honest and the feedback that you need, it could be 1 in 20, 1 in 30, and we all know, getting to 30 is always a challenge. So getting feedback from 1 in 30 just really slows down the process. So I think, just in terms of the market research, I think this has enabled me to ensure that we're on the right path from the beginning, and brought those things forward by maybe a few months, or 3 to 6 months, maybe even.
All right. So finally, just the last question: what would be, you are the first startups to go through this, so what would be your number one recommendation for the startups going through this next year?
I think, I think, you touched on it at the beginning of this process, Johan, so I'm going to repeat some things that you said to me when we initially had those discussions, was that be very open-minded. Don't be defensive, because what you're receiving is valuable feedback. And when you're defensive, sometimes people might not necessarily feel comfortable going down the same path and giving you the criticism you need. So that's so important. So it is just a case of, like I said earlier, you stand there and people are throwing things at you, and you just have to keep taking it. But it's really, really valuable, because if you do that, if you sit back and listen to what they have to say, and just listen really, and then you can watch those recording backs, make your notes, and obviously make your notes and mentally as well, and then try and push the product in the right direction, as opposed to just continuously pushing something that's not what the market needs, maybe, because we all make assumptions based on our own experiences and knowledge, but those are different from everybody else's. Every single person is different, and to understand the different perspective from different encounters is just really, really valuable.
All right, that's perfect.